Hey travelers, Mag and FlCrafters here, and if this background looks familiar, it's because we've already been here once before. We have returned to the Wiliwilinui trail, and today we are going to finish off the portion of the trail that we did not hit last time. The wind speeds today are supposed to get up to about 18 miles an hour, so there's no way we're going to be hiking up to the top of any ridge. However, the sub-trail goes down between the two ridges and should offer us a little protection from the wind today. So when we get about a mile up the trail, we're gonna branch off and explore areas that we haven't been to before. So let's get out there and see what the other part of the Wiliwilinui Ridge Trail looks like. Come on, let's go. I am constantly out exploring new trails over and over again. So actually, it feels kind of strange for me to walk through a trail entrance that I've already been onto once before. We know what we're getting into for this first mile at least, and I can't wait to smell some of those strawberry guavas up there because it is just aromatic in the air and worth a second trip through. After that, we'll branch off, and I'm pretty excited to see what the differences are from there. As we start off on the trail and we feel this elevation gain under our feet, we have to remind ourselves that to get to this point, the car did much more than half the work. So yeah, it already may be a little exhausting, but we're counting what we had in favor for us climbing up here, knowing that we got lucky on it.
And knowing what to expect out of the trail this time around makes me appreciate the portion that's paved for as long as it lasts, which isn't very long at all. I am glad that we were able to make it out on the trail a bit earlier than we had last time because it gave us the opportunity to appreciate this brilliant sunrise.
We are the very first ones out here on the trail today, and that alone makes it worth the earlier morning wake up to get out here. What a beautiful sunrise to welcome us out onto the Wiliwilinui hiking trail once again.
The winds aren't supposed to get to their heaviest until later this afternoon, but even now they are really going.
The wind is very interesting here because on the trail itself, we're relatively sheltered from it, but the trees are dancing all around us, and because of where we are on the ridge, you can hear the wind funneling through it kind of in a thunderous manner. If you listen closely, you hear it there in the background. That is quite the sound to greet us and reinforcement that we do not want to climb up on top of the ridge today.
FlCrafters laughs when I point to the cache off to the side of the trail, as if she wasn't the one who found it.
Maybe it's because we're already familiar with the conditions. Maybe it's because we just psyched ourselves out. But it feels like we have made phenomenal time on the trail today compared to our first outing. We're only about 500 feet from the breakaway to start into unexplored territory right around the corner here.
As we enter the more densely packed portion of the forest, the smell of strawberry guavas in the air grows strong.
There really isn't much to give away this portion of the trail. As we noticed the first time that we were here, we have a couple of pink bands on the trees on this side, some pink markings, and other than that, it's not very well maintained. And it's not marked very well on the map either. When we were looking at it the first time, it was relatively overgrown with ferns. So I'm expecting we're gonna be doing some bushwhacking here until we find ourselves on the other ridge line, which hopefully will be sheltered enough between the two taller ridge lines around it that the wind is not a factor for us, or it's wide enough that the wind isn't a factor for us. I'm not too big to admit that if it's unsafe, we'll turn around, but I think that we'll be able to handle this. And if not, well, you'll be the first to know.
The woods press in much closer around us here than on the main line of the Wiliwilinui Ridge Trail, but we are able to follow the pink markers and slide our way through with minimal bushwhacking. And there is consistently at least one pink marker in the distance ahead, assuring us that we are on the right track.
We're actually doing better in here so far than I thought we would. Where it had looked pretty overgrown from our first scouting, we actually have a semblance of a trail here, and it's fairly well marked too. Pretty well along the way you see a lot of those markers on the trees like that, and just up ahead I got another one coming up right here, one right there, and all along the way we've got these markers to let us know that we're not just lost in the woods. Well, not yet anyway.
After a while, the short, skinny trees that have dominated the trail thus far begin to thin out and are replaced by paperbark trees. These are a severe contrast as they are tall and thick, sometimes growing up to 75 feet high. The thick, spongy bark easily peels away from the trunk, littering the trail.
You see that? This tree is being quite naughty.
But in all seriousness, these paperbark trees are actually a bit naughty as they are considered an invasive species. They release a chemical that inhibits the germination and growth of other species.
We were both so impressed by this grove of trees right here that we almost missed the turnoff for this trail. Thank goodness they have all these good markings, otherwise we would have flown right past and definitely been bushwhacking to get back to it.
We don't know it yet, but we are about to have more than our fair share of bushwhacking coming up very soon. For the time being though, we are blissfully unaware, happily following this trail while it allows us to do so with ease.
It's the strangest thing because we're only really a few hundred feet off the main trail here, and yet it feels like an entirely different trail with entirely different bird sounds and trees to welcome us. It's always great to be able to explore these branches and see that it ain't the same thing out here. Not at all.
So far, this is the only place in Oahu I've seen these trees so densely packed. Usually it's only one or two at a time.
I've always liked the way maps tell a picture, so let's go ahead and look at a map of the Wiliwilinui Ridge Trail out here. As you can see, running north to south up to the top of the ridge line on the last adventure, we found all the geocaches along the way, and it was quite the adventure. This time around, we're taking on those 6 just west of that set, leading down to a Vista cache that was placed in 2002. And if you guys are like me, I love to go find old geocaches like that. So knowing there's a 2002 waiting for us at the end of the trail, right there on the bottom of that thing, is enough motivation to keep hiking whatever conditions we find out here.
And those conditions are still in our favor for now. We have left the more open expanses filled with the paper bark trees and once again find ourselves on the tighter trails squeezed in by these long skinny trees.
You got anything in sight there, Florida Crafters?
I see something.
Oh,
Kind of in the open.
looks like we have the prize we're seeking. It is no joke out here. All it takes is stepping 5 feet off the trail and then you're fighting the terrain every step along the way. Fortunately, it did not take us too long to spot this geocache, and by us, I mean Florida Crafters. So we have now officially started our day with our first find. 5 more left between us and the 2002 that we're seeking.
I know that we have been hiking a second ridge line because I could see the contour lines on the map, but this was the first time on this portion of the trail that I could see it with my own eyes too.
This is one of those spots that really shows off what you think you see on the satellite imagery, but you're not sure of. That ridge line just over there is the main branch of the Wiliwilinui Trail. Now from there, it looks like we could have just cut across and come over here. But as you can see, it dips down and then back up to here, and that is not a cross country you want to go. So while it looks like the straight path is the shortest way, you definitely want to take the long way up the trail and then head back down south again, which is exactly what we're doing, and now we know that's the right choice.
On the opposite side of us from the Wiliwilinui Trail, we look out on another ridge line toward Waikiki. I find myself wondering if there's a trail over there too, but with no geocaches on the map, I guess I'll never know.
All right, we're at ground zero. Diving in here, seeing if I can make this find. And as soon as you step off the trail, it gets thick. You can see the trees are trying to grab my bag. They're probably whipping them back at you.
Found it.
Success! 2 down, 4 to go. For the most part, we're wedged into the trees here, but every now and then we come up on top of this little ridge and we get a good view out toward Waikiki. Right there, you can see Diamond Head, and that's one of those trails I will be taking you on at some point in the future, but not today.
We didn't realize it at this point, but the trail continues forward beyond that down tree. Instead, we follow the markers off to the left and begin heading downhill. I realize that our next target is still along the ridge line, but it is not uncommon for a trail to take a branch like this to avoid some kind of obstacle. Wanting to avoid an unnecessary bushwhack, we end up following the trail markers in the wrong direction, heading back toward the Wiliwilinui Trail.
This is a tough down right here. Somebody recently came and added this blue strap, and since we're starting from the top, I could see that it was firmly attached to the tree and in very good condition. So I definitely used it the whole way down, and as you can see, Florida Crafters is making strategic use of it to ensure that as she comes down, she does it the way she wants to, not the way gravity wants her to.
Yeah, no kidding.
You got this, Florida Crafters, you got it.
And she really does have it. She carefully watches each step as she uses the rope to guide her down the hillside. If somebody had not installed this here, it would have been a mighty struggle to make it down this hill.
And that, my friends, is why Florida Crafters is freaking awesome.
As we continue to make our way forward, following the blue, orange, and pink markers, I am checking against my GPS and only seeing us getting further and further away from where we want to be for the next target.
We've come to a realization here, pretty far along this trail now. We are thinking that the blue markers that we have been seeing are actually indicating a connection back to the parking area that we were not aware of before. But I've been studying the satellite imagery as we've been making our way a little further along the trail, and it's pretty obvious now that there's no way this is going to do anything to bring us back there, because we're too close to the housing community for it to break the way we want. So we've got to backtrack a little bit until the blue markers disappear off these trees, and then that is where the connection on the ridge trail that we need is probably buried somewhere beyond the trees that we just couldn't see before. It's all right though, because sticking to the trail is always better than veering off, even if it means that sometimes you got to do a little bit of backtracking. We're here for the exercise anyway, right, Florida Crafters?
That's right.
Keep ourselves motivated.
We were fascinated by these lava rocks on our way down, which lets us know we've made it back to the part we have to climb the rope.
The part of the backtrack we were most worried about, of course, was reascending this hill that we climbed down on this rope. But there's nothing for it but to just take it on. As you can see, Florida Crafters already has that practice step from the way down. She knows where she's aiming as she picks her way up the hill toward us, one careful step at a time, making this look something like a walk in the park. I'm sure you've heard the phrase that hindsight is 20/20. When you look back in the mirror, it's obvious the way something should have been. We should have known when we started seeing these blue markers along the trail that they were placed there for a reason, and not just to make it more obvious for us. But now we know, and now we pay a little bit for that mistake hiking our way back. I gotta be honest with you though, this is a pretty cool trail. I don't mind taking it twice. It's not like I get to take too many trails twice over, am I right? We've made it back up to the top of the hill now, and we're not feeling quite as stupid as we were when we were down that valley. What we think is the trail is right here, and it looks like the branches of this tree have collapsed onto the trail, blocking it off. But now we can see what looks like a dim trail going that way. We read through some previous logs. They indicate that the trail looks pretty dim from this point, but that we need to be sticking to the ridge line. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna head between what we see here, follow it in for a little bit of bushwhack, stick to the top of the ridge line, and hopefully we'll punch through, not too far away on the other side, to something that's a little easier to work with. Fingers crossed. We had to bushwhack a couple of 100 feet to get here, but now we're finally seeing some of these markers on the tree, letting us know that we are on the right place. But I don't feel bad about having taken that deviation at all. It is not maintained here at all like it was on the first portion of this trail. You can tell it's been a while since anybody's been out here. Well over a year since the last geocachers. Probably not that long since the last hikers. So we have to pick our way through. But what we know for sure now is we are not deviating from the ridgeline. We are sticking to it and feeling a lot more comfortable that we're seeing those pink markers again like we should have been.
Sometimes though, seeing the pink marker and knowing how to get there are two entirely different things.
If you look at that tree right between us, beyond those leaves, you can see a little orange marker. Somehow, some way, this is still the trail we're supposed to be on. We're only 230 feet from the cache we're seeking. So I say we're bushwhacking. Yeah. Bushwhack it is. I bet you that the bushwhack is the only way to actually do this part of the trail, because that trail marker is buried in there.
I set my sights on the marker ahead and take the lead, pushing through the brush and clearing a little bit of a path for Florida Crafters following in my wake. When I do manage to punch through, I realize that this really was the only way to take this on. There was no trail.
This was a tough ground zero to find, but we did end up finding this ground zero. Florida Crafters ready to do the honors here? Rolling up on it, and what do we have going on?
Yeah, a slightly decomposed cache.
Oh, it does look like it has seen better days.
It is only now that we are starting to realize there is no more trail ahead of us. It is all bushwhack all the way.
And now we get to the namesake of this video. As we bushwhack our way along this trail, every now and then, through the brush, we'll spot one of these markers right here. And that's Florida Crafters bushwhacking your way to me right now. Whenever I see one of these trail markers, I just say to myself, if you say so, and I keep going that direction.
The trees located near the top of this ridge are short, squat, and thick. Most of their branches don't reach much higher than our heads, making this hike a little more difficult than it would be otherwise. It is an obstacle course.
See the blue marker there? If you say so.
I do some quick mental math to try and figure out how much we have slowed down and realize we are taking about twice as much time to cover half as much distance. That doesn't come as a surprise though, because there is nothing quick about hiking in conditions like this.
We're not any further than 50 feet apart or so at most times. I'm listening for the sound of Florida crafters wading through the grass though, because oftentimes I can't see her at all. All I can do is hear her coming toward me. So this trail has definitely gotten a lot slower. I'm sure we're on the right track because every now and then we come across an if you say so. But for the most part, we'll get about 50 foot of clearance or so, a nice little break for just a moment before we find ourselves wading back through the terrain. This is actually pretty nice right now. We're just in the tall grass, not so bad at all. But just up ahead, we're gonna be bobbing and weaving our way through the trees once again, dodging the rocks and the branches, and picking our way ever slowly toward our next target. But we are definitely not giving up because there's no doubt in our minds we are on the right track between the occasional if you say so and the fact that if you come off either side of this ridge line, it is a sharp descent, letting you know this is exactly where you want to be, even if you may not want to be here.
It seems like the trees all around us are waging a battle with one another, fighting to gain any piece of real estate they can on top of this ridge. Occasionally, we'll hit a lull in the battle where we have a little bit of a view of the trail ahead of us, but then we are right back into the thick of it again, with the trees fighting for dominance every step along the way.
I'm feeling pretty proud of myself right now. That last ground zero was a tough one. All that was left of that geocache container was a little bit of plastic, some pieces of the broken container, a disheveled pen, and one item of swag. And somehow I managed to uncover it, digging my way through the dirt to get enough evidence to claim that we found the geocache. Now we've only got 2 more ahead of us, and based on what we've seen so far, it's a heck of a way. We are going to that ridge right over there, which means now we are dropping down and coming back up for our grand finale, not too far away now.
There is just one last densely packed thicket to push my way through, and then all at once I am rewarded when I come out to see a view of the ridgeline up ahead of us. Finally here, for a blessed few minutes, we find some reprieve, with the trees offering us a safe passage through their branches. We both know it's not going to last that long. It never does out here, but we are going to take it for what it's worth and follow it for as long as it lasts.
This presents quite the juxtaposition here because we can see clear as day the trail that we need to take. There's no other options. It's that ridge line or it's straight down one way or the other. But seeing and believing are 2 different things. Just because we can see where we need to go doesn't make it easy. Every step here is a fight. But we've got less than half a mile to the end of this thing, and we are not quitting.
It's funny because when we look off to the ridges on either side of us, it looks like it should be easily navigable. But when you're actually in it at ground level, it is anything but that. It's times like these that make us really appreciate those novice level trails that we took on our first few adventures here on Oahu.
This was pretty easy once we got here. The hard part was definitely getting to the ground zero, but we were able to spy the cache in short order, and it's stuck far enough off that no hikers are going to be bushwhacking their way in to go find that one. But do we have a winner down here, Florida Crafters? Hey, there's one way to handle that tree. Lizards are our friends. Oh wow, that's seen better days.
Yeah.
But it looks like our logbook is still in good shape, and that's what really matters here.
At last, we are on approach to our final target of the day, the big one, the Kumakani Vista, hidden on December 25th of 2002. I knew that we had saved the best for last, but I didn't realize until this point that we had also saved the hardest for last. Because while the posted coordinates are on top of the ridgeline, the physical geocache is not. It is the toughest bushwhack out here, coupled with some pretty killer climbs.
Ooh, this one feels particularly satisfying. Right here we have an ammo can. that was hidden 22 years ago now, back in December of 2002. This bad boy's been hanging out on this ledge waiting for finders to come find it for over 2 decades, and it's not getting muggled anytime soon. This is a tough ground zero to reach. I had to crawl very carefully across all these rocks right here to get down to the ground zero to search, and this is one of 3 shelves leading down here. This makes the whole thing worthwhile. Let's take a peek in here and see what's inside this 2002 geocache. Let's take a look inside this thing. Oh, it is filled with stuff. Okay, we got our logbook. That's very important. We're gonna get back to that. But of course, okay, we got some pencils in there. We have, what do we have here? Oh, this is a McDonald's pet shop toy. I wonder how old that is. Sunblock that may be older than some of you watching this video right now. Oh, cool. A matching card game. That's fun. Amir, here's looking at you. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. That's mission accomplished. We set out to find 6 geocaches on this trail, and 6 geocaches we have found. Somehow, some way, we managed to accomplish our mission. We started off the morning on the main portion of the Wiliwilinui Ridge Trail, and from there, we branched off to what started as a trail. And then it disappeared, and we've been bushwhacking for a good long while. What are your impressions of this trail out here?
It's a challenge. It's not the funnest one, I can say that, but you never know what you're going to see on your way down. We're finding that out.
Yeah, we sure are, and it has been a challenge for the whole back half of this entire trail. But somehow we managed to make it this far, and we only have to make it that much farther for an escape. How we're going to do that, I don't know. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us on this hike through the second branch of the Wiliwilinui Ridge Trail. Can't wait to keep showing you more trails just like this as we continue to explore Hawaii. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. Stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.